Good day, everyone. I want to start with a question. When you hear the word tithing, what comes to mind? For many, it might bring up memories of Sunday services, offering baskets, or even a sense of obligation. But what if I told you that tithing is about much more than just giving money to church? Tithing is an ancient practice that has deep roots in the Bible, and it carries profound significance, not just financially, but spiritually, relationally. Today, I just want to explore what tithing truly means from the perspective of Christ. The word tithe literally means a tenth. It's the practice of giving back 10% of our income or to produce to God. The concept of tithing goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. In Genesis chapter 14, we see Abraham, the father of faith, giving a tenth of all he had to Melchizedek, the king of Salem, and a priest of the Most High God. This was an act of worship, acknowledging that all he possessed came from God. Now, fast forward to Malachi chapter 3, verse 10, where God says, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it." Tithing was a practice that signified trust and obedience and honor towards God. But what about Christ? How does he view tithing? In Matthew chapter 23, Jesus addresses the Pharisees saying, "Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye pay tithe of mint and anise and cumin, and have omitted or cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone." Here, Jesus isn't condemning tithing, he's actually affirming it. He says, "These ought ye to have done," meaning they should continue tithing, but not neglect the deeper matters of the heart, justice, mercy, and faith. In other words, Christ is calling us to go beyond the mere act of giving and to understand the spirit behind it. Tithing is not just a transaction, it is a transformation. It is about recognizing that everything we have, our time, our talents, our treasures, ultimately belongs to God. It's an expression of our love, our trust, and gratitude towards Him. Now, let's go a little deeper. In Luke chapter 6, verse 38, Jesus says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet withal, it shall be measured to you again." Tithing from Christ's perspective is about the heart of giving. It's about generosity. It's about understanding that God is the ultimate provider. And when we give, we make room for his blessings to flow back into our lives. And it's not just about financial blessing. Acts chapter 20:35, it's more blessed to give than to receive. Tithing teaches us to live with open hands, ready to give, ready to receive, and always trusting in God's provision. So, what are the effects of tithing in our lives? First, tithing builds our trust in God. In Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9, it says, "Honor the Lord with thy substance and with thy first fruits of thine increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine." When we tithe, we're placing our trust not in our own abilities or resources, but in God's unfailing provisions. Two, it develops generosity. It develops a spirit of generosity. As we give, we reflect God's own generous nature. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and 7 reminds us, "God loveth a cheerful giver." Tithing help us cultivate a joyful heart, one that finds delight in giving back. Three, it fosters community. Tithing, when we give, we support the work of the church, we help those in need, and advance the kingdom of God. It's a way of saying we're all are in this together. We are a family and we care for one another. Now, let's address some common misunderstandings. Some people might ask, isn't tithing just an Old Testament law? Do we really need to do it today? Well, remember what Jesus said in Matthew 23:23. "These ought ye to have done." Tithing is a principle that predates the law and continues into the New Testament as an act of worship, not a legal obligation. Others might say, "I can't afford to tithe," but I would challenge you to consider this. Can we afford not to? In Malachi chapter 3 and 10, God invites us to test him to see if he will not open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing. When we give to God first, he promises to take care of our needs. So, How can we embrace tithing today? It begins with a heart of gratitude and trust. Start by giving faithfully and consistently, whether it's through your local church or directly to those in need. Remember, it's not about the amount, but the attitude. As Jesus said in Luke chapter 21, 3 through 4, even the widow's small offering was great in his eyes because it came from a place of deep faith and sacrifice. I encourage you all today to take a step of faith. I encourage you all to begin to move in faith. And remember, I would like to repeat, you don't necessarily have to give it to a church. I do encourage you, if you are part wherever you're getting fed, to definitely give an offering or a tithe to help support that ministry. But you don't necessarily have to give it to church. You can give your tithing to those in need. God bless you. And remember to always have a great day on purpose.